This is Detective Martinez 682, as well as Agent William Wodoff from New Mexico State Police, and Attorney Jess Lilly conducting a taped interview of Officer DeAnthony Rohr, reference to case number LCPD 2018-09-7655. You can also reference State Police case number 18-23-5-0290. Currently, today is the 28th of September, the year 2018, time's approximately 0905 hours. We're at the Las Cruces Police Department, located 217 East Picacho, in the Criminal Investigation Section briefing room. For the record, Officer Rohr, can you state your full name?
Yes, so the full name is DeAnthony Roshan Rohr, sir.
And Rohr spelled
R-O-O-H-R.
H-R. Okay, and your date of birth? Okay, I'm going to use the police department as an address. Is that okay?
That is perfectly fine, sir.
Is there a phone number I could use for you? Okay. Officer Rohr, what is your official title here with the City of Las Cruces?
Yes, I'm a patrol officer. I work Graves Shift A.
Okay. And how long have you been with the police department?
Just a little under 2 years.
Okay. Do you remember your commission date?
It was February 17th of 2017, sir.
2017?
Yes.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, and before you were a police officer, what is your background?
I've been with Army Reserves Military Police Corps for approximately since 2011 and currently still am. Current title is captain. Prior to that, I worked a security job with We Energies in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was trained in over 5 facilities of We Energies corporations there. Prior to that, I was a full-time student at UW Milwaukee, where I received a degree in global security and a minor in Arabic.
Okay. No, that's okay. I didn't mean to interrupt. So what I'd like to do is talk to you about an incident that happened this past Sunday. It was September 23rd. Do you remember that day?
I do.
Okay. So were you working as a patrol officer with the City of Las Cruces on that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's start from the time of dispatch. Do you remember what the time of dispatch was?
Yes, sir. It was approximately 3:45 hours.
Explain to me what was dispatched and your involvement in this case.
I was at the venue on August 23rd, 2018, approximately 03:45 hours, while in lawful performance of my duties in uniform, displaying my badge of office within the City of Las Cruces, County, Dunno, and State of New Mexico. While in a marked unit, I was dispatched to 1316 Lee's Drive in reference to a domestic disturbance. The domestic disturbance was called in by a 14-year-old girl who lived at that residence. She stated that her mother and father got into an argument and that the father had a loaded weapon in the house. The reason why she called in is because she thought her father was actually going to use the weapon against the mother. As the central dispatch stated, that the male subject was currently outside and there was no description of the male.
Okay, and just for clarification, I know you said August 23rd, but this happened September 23rd.
Oh, pardon me, September.
Oh, no, I just want to make it clear for the record, okay? 1316 Lee's, is that within your district, your beat?
Yes, District 4, sir.
And were you specifically dispatched to it, or was somebody else dispatching you?
Officer Ornelas, she was dispatched as well as myself.
Okay. Do you know if any other officers were dispatched or responded with you?
Officer Jesse Gonzalez, badge number 833, was put himself on a card as well.
Okay. And when you guys arrived, did you guys stagger your arrival? Did you arrive all together? How did you guys?
We pretty much arrived all at the same time. I was going southbound on Lee's Drive, and that's where I noticed Officer Ornelas and Officer Gonzalez. They came off of the intersection of Idaho, went southbound down Lee's, and I fell right in behind them as I was going southbound down Lee's.
Okay. So, just so I can clarify, it was Oscar Morales, then Gonzalez, and then you on these streets?
Yes.
Okay. And when you guys arrived, where did you guys park?
We parked approximately 2 houses north of 1316 Lees. So right at the intersection of Coyote Diswinus and Lees.
Okay. And then
after that happened, Officer Ornelas gets out of her vehicle, Officer Gonzalez gets out of the vehicle, and I'm the last to get out of my vehicle. They take the sidewalk. They're walking and approaching by the sidewalks outbound, and I'm in the middle of the street, or probably, yes, I would say in the middle of the street, walking towards the residence.
Okay. When you guys were doing this, did you find yourself, or what position did you find yourself in relative to where the officers were?
I was to their left, and they were to my right.
Okay. And were you guys equally parallel? Were you in front and back, or something different?
All I remember is that they were to my right.
Fair.
I feel I was a little bit more forward. So.
Okay. And as you were approaching the house, did anything stick out?
One house, the house just north of 1316, and we didn't have a visual, as there was a van blocking my view, at least. Katrina heard the rack of a gun, and in my mind, I was like, okay, I didn't hear what I heard, and from what she stated, it kind of put me a little bit more of alert based off the fact that the call was for a male subject that did have a gun. So that's what we heard. One house just north of that location.
Okay. I know you said Katrina heard it. Did she reference that to you guys?
Yes, she said, "Did you guys hear that?" And I was, like I said, kind of brushed it off a little bit. I shouldn't have. I know that now. But, yeah.
Okay. Did you hear anything, or?
I believed I heard it, but then once again, it's 3 a.m, and in my mind, I was like, okay, I really didn't hear that.
Okay. And then what?
So then, as we're continuing to walk southbound, I had a better angle, I believe, behind the van, where I saw a male subject. He was wearing a white button-up shirt, tan khaki pants, and he was barefoot. And immediately, I pulled out my weapon and turned my light on, and I told him to let me see your hands. The male subject had his left hand in front of him as such, and his right hand at the small of his back, which appeared to me as if he was concealing something or hiding something, in particular, a weapon.
Okay. Just to back up just a bit, you said that when you saw him and recognized that he was a male, and you described his dress, you pulled out your firearm.
Yes.
What was the rationale behind that?
The rationale was the call. It was a 14-year-old girl that said her father was outside racking and loading a gun, and she was afraid that he would use it. When Katrina stated that she heard the rap and a slide, and once again, like I said, it was something I brushed off. It just kind of fell in together with those, those 2 aspects. And I felt that with the male subject placing his left hand out and the right hand behind his back, that's pretty much 3 cues, or if not clues, that the possibility of a weapon was there.
Okay. And then what happened?
I gave him commands. I told him, let me see his hands. Let me see your hands. Let me see your hands. And instead of doing so, he turned back around, and it appeared that he tripped and kind of did a bear crawl-like motion back to the front door. And with his left hand, he jiggled the door violently to try and get into the house.
Okay.
After he failed to get into the house, I saw him sprint, or he was still in a bear crawl type motion, but on his way of standing up, he went towards the front of the vehicle, and that's where I noticed in his right hand that there was a black object. His back was turned at me at that time. And then, to my knowledge, began yelling out, let me see your hands, and then he began to rotate towards me with his left hand resting on the front left of the panel of the vehicle, and I saw a gun pointing my direction.
And I want to keep this sequential, but we'll come back to this in a second. So you said you saw a gun in his right hand pointing at you. Explain to me, describe to me what you saw.
Yes, so after, once again, after he tried to get into the door, like I said, it was a bear crawl motion with his left hand. He jiggled the door, trying to get in. He then was bear crawling towards the front of the vehicle that was sitting in the driveway. And in his right hand, I saw the handle of the gun. It was a gun black in color. And as he was going towards the vehicle, he rested his left palm on the front left fender, and he turned to his right. He was at this point crouched towards that front of the vehicle, and I saw the weapon point in my direction.
Okay. And did he have the gun out, aiming? Was it, we call it a rocket launch, but that's a cop term. Did he have it by his body or something different?
Yes, so when he had his left hand on the panel, I remember him turning. It was probably about waist high. Once again, he was crouched at this point as well.
All right. And you said you'd given commands to show him,
show
you his hands?
Yes, I believe I told him to show, yes.
And did he comply at that point?
He did not comply.
And then what happened?
As I saw the weapon rotate towards me, I ended up firing rounds, firing what I believed at that time to be 2 rounds.
Okay. When you fired these rounds, do you know if you hit anything or was he struck himself?
When I fired the first round, I believe it tore against the back left panel of the vehicle, and the second round I went through the back window of the vehicle. That's what I remember, sir.
Okay. And then what happened then?
At this point, I'm right behind the vehicle, and I call up through central dispatch, shots fired, and I had my flashlight trained through the back window to see if I noticed anything in particular, or just see if I see them scramble on the ground. And after I didn't hear anything, I decided to duck behind the vehicle, and I was going to prone out and look underneath the vehicle to see if the subject was behind the vehicle. But at that time, the female subject who was in that residence came outside, and I was peering from the left side of the vehicle, and I saw him with his head peering out from the side of the vehicle with his hands up.
Okay.
So,
and then what happened?
I started giving him commands, and he was not listening, and he just kept saying, "You shot at me." But as the female got closer, he then just proned out on the front lawn.
Okay. And did you help take him into custody or?
Yes, I remember placing my weapon back into my holster, and I know Katrina was first to have hands on with him, and then I assisted with the handcuffing, and then I held him there until other officers came on scene.
And then what did you do once they got on scene?
So once other officers got on scene, we ended up picking them up and tried placing them into the vehicle. Sergeant Mack, batch number 638, he then asked who got into the shooting, and I was the one, of course, being pointed out at that point, and he told me to go back to my vehicle and stay over there.
Okay. And from the scene, were you taken somewhere else?
Yes, from the scene, I was taken back to 81 West, or this station here. My buddy officer was Officer Smelser, batch number 908 at that time.
Were you contacted by a detective from our agency and an outside agency, specifically state police?
Contacted, I'm sorry, sir. Like while at station here?
Yes.
Or yes, sir.
Okay. And they did a assessment of your equipment at that point in time?
Yes, assessment of my equipment.
And did they secure it?
They did secure. They secured my vest amongst my duty belt as well.
Okay. And did they take the weapon that was among them?
They took yes my assigned weapon, my Glock 34 Generation 4, in addition to my Glock 26, which was my backup duty weapon as well. They took my ASP. They also took my taser as well.
Okay. The firearm that was used was your Glock 34?
The firearm used was my Glock 34, sir.
What caliber is that?
It's a 9mm, sir.
In between the scene and here, you said you secured it in your holster. Did anybody else ever?
No one else maneuvered, or nobody else had hands on my weapon.
Okay. And on scene, let's go back a little bit. On scene, you said maybe 2 shots. We'll get into something different here in a second. Once the shots were fired, did you do anything with the shell casings, the rounds in the windows or glass or anything?
No, I didn't, sir.
Okay. Do you know if any of the other officers did manipulate?
No, sir. No, sir. The immediate focus at that point was the male subject, getting him secured, and as well as the female subject who was now coming out of the house. That was the primary focus, to get them separated and to secure the scene at that point.
Do you know if any of the other officers, the other 2 officers, Officer Katrina Cornelis or Jesse Gonzalez, did they fire the weapon?
To my knowledge, no.
So I said we go back to the shooting limit. I'm going to ask you some questions about you yourself, all right, during this incident. I know you said you kind of brushed off or put it in the back of your mind what Katrina had said in reference to the gun racking, but once you saw this guy, how were you feeling?
My stomach immediately dropped. To me, a reasonable and a prudent person wouldn't, at the sight of officers and when they're doing commands, they would show their hands. But for him to have his left hand forward and his right hand at the small of his back, I would say, like any movie scene, that's where people in particular have weapons or store weapons. On a personal level, when I conceal and carry, I usually carry on my hip or I carry egg packs. So that's the only thing that I thought through my mind, that he actually had a weapon. Especially with the credibility of the daughter, the 14-year-old daughter, calling it in, and once again, Katrina saying she heard this live as well.
And I know you said that he did a bear crawl and he checked the door and it seemed locked, the bear crawled back. What were you thinking when this was happening?
Wow. As he was bear crawling to the front door, I remember calling up their central dispatch, 10-3 there, clear there. What I thought was he was going to try to get into the house, barricade, and possibly have hostages. That's what I was thinking through my mind at that time. Excuse me. But that's what I thought. And thank God that door was locked. Is what I was thinking right after.
Okay. And when he was posted up or was by the front of the car and he spun around and he had his hand on the car, tell me then, man, what were you thinking, feeling?
So I ended up seeing, once again, the handle of the gun as he was making his way to the front of the car. And it just pretty much confirmed everything at the point that he had a gun. However, he was running away at that time. He didn't have entry into the home, and he was pretty much cornered into the, he was pretty much in the driveway of the home, where it appeared to be no exits. So at that point, that's where I decided to stall a little bit because there was no weapon pointed at me. But as he started to rotate, I was thinking he was looking for a fight. The front of the vehicle, and especially with him evading, it was clear that he was looking for a position of cover, and he actually had a handgun. So that's what I was thinking at that time as well.
And when you recognized the gun as a gun and he pointed in your direction,
Yes.
What were you thinking of?
I remember sidestepping, moving to the right, and firing, once again, the 2 rounds That's what I particularly remember. I moved out of the way so I wouldn't get hit. And while I was moving out of the way, that's when I fired 2 rounds, or what I remembered as 2 rounds.
Okay. All right, man. I'm gonna take us out of this incident really quick. And jump to somewhere else, man. Do you know what happened to that firearm that he had?
I have no idea what happened to that firearm.
When you apprehended him, in the lawn, did he have it on?
He did not have it on his person.
Do you remember telling any of the officers what you thought happened to the firearm?
No, I didn't.
So I'm just gonna go over some things. Could you describe the lighting conditions?
Yes, sir.
when you responded?
It was pretty dark, especially in front of the residence. It was dark. My only illumination that I had on scene there was the light on my firearm.
Okay. Do you remember any ambient lighting coming, like the moon or anything like that?
Not in particular, sir.
Street lights or the neighborhood lit up?
Maybe one house to the north. I believe they may have had a light.
Okay. So due to the nature of this call, domestic in progress, male armed with a weapon, do you have capabilities of long guns, rifles, shotguns?
Yes, we did have the capabilities.
Do you know if anyone utilized those during this incident?
During the incident, no, sir.
Okay. And just speaking for you personally, why did you make the decision not to utilize that?
In particular, sir, there's no reason why.
Okay. And as you were approaching the house, I know that. Did you hear anything coming in terms that would make you believe a domestic was happening from that residence?
No, I did not, sir. The only thing I was Katrina telling me she heard the slide of a rack, and me faintly hearing it and discarding it. That's all I remember from that call.
Okay. So as you're approaching, I know that you said that you're walking pretty much in the middle of the street,
Yes.
coming into contact with the male, white button up, khakis, shoeless. Where is he standing when you first make contact with him?
Yes, sir. He's on the front lawn, just probably say about I'm not going to judge in feet. He's just near the sidewalk on the front of the lawn.
Near,
I would
near
say
the sidewalk to the street or the driveway?
he was, pardon me, if you're looking at the house, just east of the house prior to the sidewalk.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry to interrupt. If it helps, you can actually point if you need to.
Okay.
There's no.
so approximately like right here is where he was standing, and I
Okay.
was in the middle of the street right here, sir.
Okay. So I know that you said then you give him commands. Let me see your hands. Let me see your
Yes.
hands. He turns away from you,
Yes.
stumbles, falls, and crawls to the front door. Tries to get into the residence.
Yes.
The residence is locked. So then he crawls back to the vehicle.
Yes.
Posts with his left hand on the car.
Yes.
And then you see the weapon in his hand,
Yes.
black object in his hand, which you identify as a firearm. At that point, I just want to reiterate how exactly he's holding the firearm. Is he holding it by the stock, the butt? How is he holding it? Exactly?
What I remember, he was holding it by the handle.
Okay.
So he's holding it by it. Yes.
And from your vantage point, where are you standing during this time?
Yes. During this time, so the vehicle was here and he was here. I was somewhat at an angle right here. And I started to move towards the vehicle as it was my only sense of cover.
Okay.
And as I was here, and he turned towards me, I ended up once again firing what I believe to be 2 rounds and then sidestepped. I was in motion as I was firing. I ended up being behind the vehicle right here. I once again used my flashlight to see if I saw anything, and then I eventually took a kneel.
Okay. So the gun's in his right hand. He's on the car.
Yes.
And how does he turn exactly?
Yes. So as he's going, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
So as he's going back to the vehicle after he jiggled the door, he's kind of like in a bear crawl motion, pretty much coming up, and that's when I saw the hilt of his gun. And then he posts his hand here, and he kind of crouches down, and the gun is pointed towards me at this time. I end up firing those rounds, so I sidestepped and fired, and he. From there, I didn't have a good visual because I ended up being behind the vehicle.
Okay. So I know that you said that you're kind of looking, seeing if he's injured, hit at all.
Yes.
And then what happens at that point?
Yes. So I end up calling shots fired. I had my weapon pointed through the back window with my light, and I then decided to duck down, and then I was going to look underneath the car, but then the female subject came outside the house, and she was like, "What's going on? I have kids in the house." That's what I remember her saying. And then he ended up popping out, or coming from the side of the vehicle. He had his head out and his hands out like this, and he's yelling, "Why did you shoot at me? Why did you shoot at me?" And then as I'm trying to give him command, so he's not listening. And then as she came closer, he just proned out against over the lawn.
Okay.
Yes.
And then Officer Ornelas puts him in handcuffs. You assist with that.
Yes.
While you were securing him, did you place him in the back of any units or?
There was a unit that pulled up right in front of the house, in front of the residence. Myself and Officer Nellis were escorting him over to the vehicle.
Okay.
As we actually had him on the ground, he began to act disorderly as well, saying, "Why did you shoot at me? I don't even have a gun. I don't even have a gun." He kept kicking his feet and trying to get officers off of him, and we're telling him, stay there, calm down. Ended up taking him over to the vehicle and tried to have him sit in the vehicle, but he did not comply.
Okay. And during that time when you guys were securing him, did he appear to be under any substances?
At that time, the only thing I was really smelling, or the only thing I was really noticing, because I was pretty focused, I was taking in the environment. I saw Officer Gonzalez trying to calm the female down. I remember hearing this guy behind recording or trying to record with the phone saying, "Don't shoot me, I'm just recording." I remember smelling the gunpowder. That's what I remember from that point. As far as maintaining my focus on him, it was just keeping my knee on him so he wouldn't move around. I was just kind of taking in the rest of the environment, trying to see where other officers were at that point. So.
Okay. And based on your training and experience, did it appear that he was suffering from any mental illness or anything of that sort?
At that time, I couldn't even tell you, sir, to be honest with you. I think the situation and how it played out, I felt that it was a high stress situation for everybody in the scene. I can't tell you how. Yeah, I can't tell you how he rationally.
And did you identify the individual from this incident?
As far as his name or anything, I do not know.
Okay. Just from your interaction with him, do you recall having any previous interactions with him in the past?
I have not had, to my knowledge.
Have you ever responded to this residence in the past on any calls for service or anything in general?
No, sir.
Okay. What about the female? Did you identify the female that was in the residence?
I did not identify her, nor did I have any previous interactions with her as well.
Okay. And the weapon from the incident, your Glock 34, are you certified with that weapon?
I am certified with that weapon.
Okay. What about recording devices? Were you running any recording devices during this?
Yes, I was utilizing my Exxon camera. I did have it on my person.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you have any other forms of documentation?